Article 11 is a special act to establish a Department of Public Works. I'm going to get into the actual nuts and bolts of our article, but I want to start by discussing the background and some items to consider. Our current highway department building requires some short-term capital investments, regardless of whether or not the town moves forward with the Department of Public Works. But if our long-term vision for that department is a Department of Public Works, that's going to affect how we invest in that building and the staffing moving forward. Our department is still down one laborer from 1999. Now, the board did add one laborer this year. So prior to this year, we were actually down two laborers from 1999. We currently have a $1,000 state earmark for public works facilities improvement, which can be used for design, construction, renovations. And we just want to note that the town has been investing significantly over the last 5 years in our public roadway infrastructure. We've hired a town engineer, we've dedicated additional funds to road maintenance, and the Board of Selectmen intends to continue that investment moving forward. These discussions of a DPW started over 23 years ago. There were plans, ultimately, I'm not going to read through this whole slide this evening, but there was a highway superintendent at the time. The Board of Selectmen had entered discussions on making him Department of Public Works Director, but due to some unforeseen circumstances, that plan ultimately fell apart. There are several pros, cons, and cost savings. Efficiency, coordination, operational oversight, and management of multiple departments, sharing resources. This includes forestry, cemetery, parks and recreation maintenance, sewage and sewage systems, streets and roads, and buildings and grounds maintenance, less duplication of services, opportunities for jointly provided services, again, coordination, expansion of services, less jurisdictional confusion, and economies of scale. There are some potential costs and cons, which are a little bit harder to quantify. There's obviously, anytime you make a change, potential for some perceived changes in distribution and control of resources, policy making versus administration, some potential costs. There may in the future be some additional administrative costs, even though there are no immediate costs anticipated right now. We've put an estimate of maybe $5,000. The DPW superintendent, we have that as a $10,000 to $15,000 potential cost because we anticipate we'll be selecting a DPW director from our existing town staff, either a highway and town engineer or a highway foreman in the future. This is also offset by the fact that long ago the highway superintendent position was vacated and it was never filled. And my understanding, this was before my time, but it was never filled because the town intended at some point to create a DPW. As we noted, this will be offset from hiring from within. And there may be some potential costs in the future for expanded office space at the highway garage / DPW. But as we note, that's likely going to be needed as the town grows regardless of the title of the department. The savings are a bit hard to quantify, but it's mostly highlighted in the pros column, efficiency and increased level of services. So the actual dollar savings are difficult to quantify. If we're being more efficient with our work, we don't necessarily go home earlier and write a check back out, but if we're being more efficient, we're going to get more work done for the residents and for the community. We did a quick community comparison of 20 communities in our area, and all but 2 of them have a Department of Public Works. Only other towns are Dunstable and Townsend, 3 if you include Tyngsborough, but as you can see, most other communities already have a Department of Public Works. How this will be structured in Tyngsborough, it will be a Department of Public Works under the authority of a DPW superintendent. However, one of the largest departments, which is the sewer department, is still going to have some authority under the control of a sewer commission. Chairman Cohane was delegated from the Board of Selectmen to work with this existing sewer commission along with myself. We met with them on several occasions. We've come up with a plan that as part of this DPW, the sewer commission will remain elected. They'll remain responsible for current and future sewer construction projects. They'll remain responsible for setting the sewer rate and oversight of all expenditures from the Sewer Enterprise Fund. Those were their priority items, and we came up with a compromise with the Sewer Commission that they were happy with to keep them in charge of those items, but the DPW superintendent will be in charge of operations and maintenance of the existing system and their staff, along with the DPW staff and all of the other departments. Are there any questions on Article 11?
Billy Crawford. So I understand the current engineer is being considered to be the heir apparent as the first superintendent of public works. I mean, that's readily known. And that's fine, but Section 2 of the Special Act says the superintendent shall be a person specially fitted by education, training, and previous experience to perform the duties of the office. So be it, as long as our engineer has those qualities. Until this evening, I'd seen very little information about the cost of this ever mentioned, and you know me, I look at a lot of videos and look at a lot of the meetings. So I'm glad you mentioned the administrative cost. I think the $5,000 may be a little light, okay? And I also sent you an email asking you about, it looks like we'll have an additional $10,000 or $15,000 cost.
Right.
Okay? So the other cost that came to my mind is because of the Department of Public Works supervisor's additional workload, will he be able to perform the engineering duties that he currently does, or are we going to have to farm some of that out too?
So those are great questions. The existing work that he does as a town engineer, he designs some smaller projects for the town, and he does those in-house, and then he coordinates very closely with the highway department to complete those jobs. For some of our larger projects, large survey of a mile of road, putting those plans together for our large road paving projects, he has to work with a lot of consultants on a regular basis to do that, very similar to the sewer commission, and that work's going to continue. He's an engineer, but he's not going to be designing the future sewer phases. Those larger projects will still be farmed out to teams of engineers. I think you're right that the more administrative duties he takes on, the less time he'll have to perform some of that work. But ultimately, the work he's doing overseeing the department is going to be work he's doing to create efficiencies within the department by overseeing things. So on one hand, he'll have a little bit less time to be drawing up plans, but his oversight, the plan is we'll be creating efficiencies, so it'll be made up on that end.
And let me just give you one example, Billy, too. So what we've seen is, we know we have a lot of drainage issues on our roads right now. And it's becoming more and more apparent there's a lot more than I even thought a little while ago. One of the things with the DPW with Jake, right now, if we were to outsource that particular drainage project, Jake would have to have very detailed plans developed because we're gonna put it out to bid, then somebody comes in, they do the work, and we have to check it. What we'd prefer to do is have Jake, he doesn't have to do the detailed plans, he knows what he needs to do on the drainage, and now he's the DPW director, he gets the highway department to actually do the work. So he goes out with the highway department, he doesn't have to do the detailed engineering plans, he knows what he needs to do when he gets out there. And that's usually like a $15,000 to $20,000 project if we were to outsource that. So if we can bring that in, that's one efficiency that we can do. That reduces the amount of engineering work he needs to do because he doesn't have to, we don't have to outsource it. So that's one example of what we can see from efficiency, and he won't have to do as detailed engineering specs before he does the work.
Thank you, Ron.
Welcome.
Okay, I understood what you said. I don't want to get into the weeds because we're not supposed to be for or against this today. Okay, so I don't want to get into the weeds on it. I hear what you said.
Yep.
I don't believe the savings are going to offset the expense in the long run. My opinion, your opinion. Okay. The other thing was, so I covered that. And you talked about the salary range. That was perfect. We did that. The other thing I understand that the Department of Board of Health, the DPW will not be involved, supervisor will not be involved with setting rubbish rates or be involved with trash. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
That was removed from.
Single mention in here of Board of Health or trash or recycling.
I know that, but that was on the plate originally, and that was taken off. That's done.
That wasn't on the plate when we talked about the DPW. You're talking about the charter previously?
No, it was mentioned in one of the meetings from the Board, and the Board of Health, and I can,
Oh, and the Board of Health. Yes, the Board of Health, maybe they mentioned it. I didn't watch the Board of Health.
I wasn't accusing anyone, I just know it was spoken of.
Okay. So at the Board of Selectmen meeting, in all the conversations we've had, Department of Health, garbage, recycling.
They're gonna keep dealing with our trash contracts.
Right, it's not
Okay.
part of the DPW.
Some boards of health do get involved with trash contracts, but not ours. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Next thing, will the DPW supervisor have the unilateral authority to institute fees, such as stormwater?
The way this is currently set up, that the rates and regulations, I just want to pull up that section here. Department policy formulation, so unless otherwise described in this section, the select board will be responsible for the establishment of priorities and policies to govern the operation of the department. So that would include things like fees, except for sewer-related fees, which the Board of Sewer Commissioners are responsible for setting those rates and regulations. And then if the sewer commission ever decides to disband, that authority also goes back to the Board of Selectmen to then hold the public hearing for setting of the rates.
So you said it still rests with the select board.
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you.